Hello everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about a famous bank robbery that took place in France in 1976. It's considered the most valuable bank heist ever pulled off in France during the 20th century. This is the story of the Société Générale bank robbery in Nice. There was a man named Albert, born in 1932 in a small town called Montélimar in southeastern France. His parents were Italian immigrants. His father passed away when Albert was just 3 years old. After that, he moved with his mother to a coastal town in the south called Nice. There, his mother opened a lingerie shop, and not long after, she remarried. Albert grew up under the care of his mother and stepfather. As a teenager, he developed a habit of stealing. Whenever he saw something he liked, he couldn't resist taking it. Sometimes, he even gave stolen goods to the girl he loved. Because he despised his stepfather, Albert ran away from home at 17 to join the military. He became a paratrooper and was sent to Vietnam, where he was injured twice. In 1953, at the age of 21, he broke into a dairy shop in Hanoi to steal, but was caught. He was sent back to France and imprisoned. Later, he was dispatched to Africa, where he joined a short-lived, far-right paramilitary group called the OAS during the Algerian War. Once again, he was arrested for his involvement. After his release, Albert craved a fresh start. In 1968, at the age of 36, he and his wife moved to Nice, a Mediterranean coastal city in southeastern France. Nice was an economically significant town in southern France. When Albert and his wife arrived, they bought an old rural house on a hill and renovated it. There, he started a small farm raising chickens and ducks, while his wife worked as a nurse at a hospital in Nice. For years, they lived a peaceful life. By 1976, when Albert was 44, he opened a photography studio in Nice. A well-dressed man with a love for fashion, Albert's talent and charm attracted many wealthy clients. Within a few years, his studio was thriving, giving him a comfortable middle-class life. But he wasn't satisfied. He still yearned to make more money. One day, Albert visited a bar in Nice and overheard two patrons talking about the bank's safe deposit boxes. His interest was piqued instantly. Listening carefully, he learned that thousands of safe deposit boxes were stored in the underground vault of the Société Générale bank branch in Nice. Many wealthy people rented these boxes to store their most valuable possessions in Europe. Albert's eyes lit up. That night, he lay awake in bed, thinking that if he could get his hands on the contents of those boxes, he'd become the richest man in France. It was his dream, and so he began crafting a plan. The best way to understand the layout of the bank's underground vault was to see it for himself. So, Albert went to the bank and, using a fake identity, rented a safe deposit box. This gave him the chance to tour the vault with the bank manager. He observed a massive circular door with a complex electronic lock. The door and walls were incredibly thick, giving the bank confidence that the vault was impenetrable unless someone knew the code. Inside, he saw countless safe deposit boxes stacked tightly together, over 4,000 in total, each labeled with a number. While the exterior security was top-notch, Albert noticed the interior lacked significant safeguards. He realized breaking in through the front door was impossible. He'd never crack the code. But if he could enter the vault without using the door, he could take the treasures undetected. How could he pull that off? Albert recalled a novel he'd read called The Security Flaw: How to Rob a Bank, published in 1972. It detailed robbing a bank through a city's sewer system. After leaving the bank, he walked along a dusty road nearby and, a few hundred meters away, spotted several manhole covers. This meant there were sewer tunnels running beneath the ground near the bank. Albert thought he might actually be able to access the vault through the sewers, just like in the book. To confirm this, he posed as an elderly contractor and visited Nice City Hall, where he managed to obtain a map of the sewer system around the bank. Back then, no one questioned his odd request, since those maps were publicly accessible with a simple explanation. That night, when no one was around, Albert lifted a manhole cover and climbed down to explore. He spent a week navigating the nearby sewers and, sure enough, found one tunnel very close to the bank's vault. Let's take a look at the area's layout. Here's the bank with its underground vault. About 200 meters south is the famous place Messina Square in Nice. Albert found a manhole cover there. After descending, you enter the sewer system. Heading north along one of the tunnels, you reach a spot very near the bank's vault. After some calculations, Albert determined the vault's depth matched the sewer's level, and the spot was just 10 meters from the vault's inner wall. Digging a tunnel from there into the vault seemed feasible. However, challenges could arise, like the noise from breaking through the thick walls, which risked detection. To test this, Albert placed an alarm clock in his rented safe deposit box, set to go off at midnight. He then lingered near the bank to see if it would trigger the bank's alarms or alert the police. To his surprise, nothing happened after midnight. The vault's thick, airtight walls muffled all sound. This convinced Albert that the vault, touted as the safest in Nice, wasn't invincible. He'd found a flaw, and his plan was starting to take shape. But he knew he couldn't do it alone. Albert recruited 20 like-minded men from his old OAS days, each with unique skills. Some expert tunnel diggers, others skilled at cutting, appraising jewelry, or even cooking. He assembled a team and planned in secret for months, assigning each member a specific role. Then, in April 1976, they sprang into action. The team had a clear division of labor. Some kept watch outside, others handled logistics, while Albert led the rest into the sewers via the manhole in Place Messina at night. The sewers of Nice were a maze of filthy, smelly tunnels branching in every direction. You'd get lost on your first try. But Albert had mapped the route precisely. They quickly reached the spot near the vault. Before digging, they addressed power needs, running a long cable from the city's grid to their site for lighting and small, quiet tools. Then, they carved a hole in the sewer wall and began tunneling toward the vault. To prevent collapse, they reinforced sections with concrete and steel. Albert was strict with his crew. No alcohol or coffee, and everyone had to sleep 10 hours before working to ensure peak performance. They dug non-stop for 2 months, finally reaching the vault wall. The tunnel was 8 meters long, 80 centimeters wide, and 130 centimeters high, just enough for a person to crawl through. Over those 2 months, no one suspected their frequent comings and goings. Next, they waited for the perfect moment. Albert knew weekdays were busy at the bank, with clients accessing their boxes and the vault door opening and closing often. Weekends, however, were quiet. Saturday and Sunday were off days, with only security guards present. A weekend break-in made sense. He noticed July 14th, France's National Day, was approaching. People would handle their banking needs beforehand, leaving the days after quieter. The weekend following Bastille Day would likely be the bank's most vulnerable time. So, Albert chose that weekend for the final strike. On July 16th, 1976, a Friday, Albert and his 20-man crew were ready. They began hours after the bank closed, entering the tunnel and drilling a 60-centimeter hole through the vault's inner wall. One by one, they slipped inside, facing over 4,000 safe deposit boxes. Once in, they welded the vault door shut, ensuring that even if discovered, no one could enter quickly, giving them time to escape. Outside, lookouts stood ready, and an escape route was prepared. The group celebrated inside, though no sound escaped the vault's thick walls. Then they got to work. Each box's door was sturdy, taking time to crack. With only the weekend, they opened over 300 of the 4,000 boxes, looting gold, diamonds, jewelry, cash, and valuables. They brought portable stoves and food, eating on-site to keep going. By Monday, July 19th, a bank employee arrived for routine work, retrieving cash from the vault for the first floor tellers. But that day, something was off. He entered the correct code, yet the vault door wouldn't budge. With opening hours nearing, he alerted his superiors. The bank called the vault door's manufacturer and a locksmith, who struggled for hours. By late morning, management ordered the door forced open to avoid disrupting business. After hours of effort, they broke through and were stunned. Hundreds of safe deposit boxes lay scattered, their contents gone. The vault had been robbed. Police were called immediately. On a vault wall, they found a taunting message written by Albert. No weapons, no hatred, no violence. He was mocking the police and boasting about his masterpiece. They also discovered a portable stove, empty food wrappers, and dirty dishes, proof the thieves had camped out and worked nonstop. A 60-centimeter hole in the wall led to an 8-meter tunnel, where drills, gas canisters, and digging tools were left behind. The tunnel connected to the sewer system, exiting via a manhole 200 meters away. The heist made headlines across Europe. Goods worth about 50 million francs, roughly 300 billion VND, were stolen from what was called France's safest vault. Clients who rented boxes were shocked and gathered outside, anxiously awaiting news, hoping their boxes weren't among the 300 hit. Since the thieves wore gloves, no fingerprints remained, and with no DNA technology at the time, identifying them was nearly impossible. For 3 months, the investigation stalled. Albert's plan seemed perfect until police found a new clue, a chisel left at the scene. One officer recalled stopping a man named Daniel, a felon whose truck once carried similar concrete chisels. They searched Daniel's home, finding tools with soil matching the vaults. Daniel was arrested and interrogated. On June 25, 1977, a year after the heist, police arrested Albert for suspected robbery. He denied everything and refused to reveal the loot's location. A trial loomed. In jail, Albert met an admirer who idolized his feat. They hatched a plan. During a meeting with the judge in his office, Albert played along, acting cooperative. Suddenly, a motorcycle engine roared outside, the prearranged signal from his accomplice. Albert pulled a hand-drawn map from his pocket, showing a building and sewers, and handed it to the judge. It looked like a heist blueprint, but it was intentionally vague. As the judge studied it, Albert edged closer, claiming to explain. His real goal was the window behind the judge. In a flash, he flung it open and leapt out, landing on a car roof below as a cushion, then speeding off on the waiting motorcycle before the judge could react. Days later, the car's owner received a 5,000 franc check, about 130 million VND, from Albert as compensation for the dented roof. Though Albert escaped, the trial proceeded. He was convicted in absentia and sentenced to life. His story became legendary. Rumors swirled that he got plastic surgery and fled to Argentina, living anonymously. Police chased leads, but never caught him. In June 1989, 13 years later, word came that Albert died of throat cancer in Argentina at 56. Per his wishes, his body was returned to France for burial. Besides Albert, his accomplices scattered. Not until 2010 did police track them all down. But by then, France's statute of limitations had expired, and they couldn't be prosecuted. The massive haul remains unrecovered, its fate known only to them. That's the end of today's story. From a criminal psychology perspective, Albert's case is fascinating. His meticulous planning, charisma, and adaptability reveal a brilliant yet restless mind. His early thefts and disdain for authority suggest deep-seated defiance, while his taunting message and payment for the car show a mix of pride and twisted honor. He craved wealth and thrill, yet his quiet years and nice hint at a longing for stability he couldn't sustain. This duality, calculated genius and impulsive risk-taking, makes him a textbook study in the psychology of master criminals. See you next time. Goodbye.